Oh, hello. I'd like to talk about the march that took place yesterday on the 21st of January. It's now the 1st of February. And that march was the March for Homes and Against Evictions. There was two marches that converged on City Hall simultaneously. One went from the Elephant and Castle and the other in South London, and the other one went from Shoreditch in the East End. I was on the one from Shoreditch. I don't really usually go on marches all that much, but this is one I felt I had to participate in. It's a very much root and branch thing. There wasn't hardly any political banners at all, except the ubiquitous posters by the SWP, but no one takes any notice of them anymore. Anyway, before the march started, Diane Abbott was due to speak, but she was advised not to, as she would not, her blabberings would not be appreciated by the crowd. Many of her, as I say, are homeless themselves and experiencing the insecurity that we have in our everyday life about housing, particularly in London, and didn't want to hear her platitudes. The Labour Party themselves, incidentally, although they're raising 1.3 billion from the mansion tax, are not going to buy or spend or do anything towards housing. They're not going to construct a single social housing unit with any of that money. And in fact, they haven't even pledged to do anything in the housing market anyway by building hundreds of thousands of much needed social, cheap, not affordable, cheap housing. They haven't made any promises. So therefore, you could say that they haven't broken their promises. So they've made no promises at all. So that's maybe why people don't want to hear the Labour politicians. And that's why it was good that they had an open mic thing, both at City Hall and at Shoreditch, where I was. Well, anyway, we went on a march in a freezing cold. There must have been about 1,500 people on each march, so that brings us up to about 3,000. It was quite dispiriting, actually, to walk down Leman Street, where all these hundreds and hundreds of new yuppie flats are being constructed. When we got to City Hall, it was freezing cold and rainy, but people hung around, and there was a spontaneous occupation of number 1 Tower Bridge Road by squatters and their supporters and by people in class war. The riot police turned up, but by that time everybody had evacuated the building, and we were on a spontaneous march down to the Aylesbury estate, where several blocks are all boarded up and people are being decanted from the area. But 3 or 4 flats, I do believe, were occupied that day. So basically, I think yesterday was quite good. Small in comparison to what it could have been. There may have been 3,000 of us on the march, but you've got to remember that probably over the last year there's been 3,000 £1 million, 1-bedroom apartments being constructed. So let's put it in perspective. If there's 300,000 people on the march, it would have been a different thing altogether. So anyway, yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. There was very little party politicking. There was no sort of vote Labour, get out the Tories. There was a few Tories out things, which one would expect, but you've got to remember that Labour and Tory are basically the same when it comes to our everyday conditions. Foreign policy and everything, they're all exactly the same. Anyway, as I was saying, I thought it was really good. There was a lot of spontaneity there. The spontaneous march that took place down to the Aylesbury estate, unaccompanied by the police. They tried to stop it, but people just went round the roadblock they put up with their vans. And it was good to see a lot of people, and I think a lot of contacts were made. And so therefore, as a beginning, I think it was good. You've got to start somewhere. We're always reinventing the wheel, and I suppose we did that yesterday. But it's better than nothing. And as I say, it's a start. And I hope that, I really do hope that we can get something out of this. But it won't be until thousands more come out onto the streets, as we did yesterday. And as for those empty flats that are being bought as million or multi-million pound investments, they will remain empty until we take them over, until they are occupied permanently by the homeless or by people that fancy an upgrade. Because the government of whatever shade it is will do nothing about it. And we can only arrive at that point when we're expropriating them in a revolutionary situation. As a revolution seems far off at the moment, I'm afraid, then we have to look for that to happen to the future. But it will happen, and I hope it does happen, and the sooner it happens, the better. You can't plan for a thing. It's spontaneous. And yesterday had a big degree, despite the cold and the wet and the rain, of spontaneity about it, and that's what I think was the best thing about yesterday. All right, then. That's it. That's all I've got to say for the next week or so, and good luck to you all.